today I'm going to teach you how to create a character for your story. And not just any kind of character. We want a dynamic character who feels like a real person, they have a great background story, and they're fully fleshed out and in depth. So, welcome to my video, and we're going to get right into it. So, number one, give your characters a purpose. Why are they there? You don't want to just create a character for the sake of having somebody in there. They're not NPCs. You want your readers to actually like these people. So, give them a job, give them a role, something that contributes to the plot. And in order to be able to do that, you kind of need to know what your plot's going to be. Maybe not the full thing, but as long as you know how your story is going to end, you can create your characters and give them jobs that will help drive the plot into completion. And common, roles and positions that characters tend to have are the heroes, the villains, the anti-heroes, giving them a job like the love interest, the mentor, the healer. Stuff like this can actually build a foundation for getting personality and appearance and all these other things that your characters are going to have later on. But the first thing is position. What are they supposed to be doing in your story? Now, the second thing, and this is honestly my favorite part of creating any character, is personality traits. This goes beyond just extroverted or introverted, but actually going into how they behave, what do they like, what do they know, and the reason why. You should have a why for everything that you do. That's how your characters are more fleshed out. That's how they become in depth, giving them a reason. But I'm gonna give you like an example. So we're starting off with strengths and weaknesses. What are your character's greatest strengths? What are they the best at? What are their weaknesses? What are they the worst at? For example, maybe you have a character who's super creative and they're innovative and they're just wonderfully like inventive. But the downside, their weakness is being a procrastinator. So they never actually make the stuff that they create. So you kind of see how those kind of clash with each other, and it makes a really interesting characters. It could even make for an entire plot and how a character can overcome that undesirable trait. Which leads me into my next point. As much as you're giving your characters very admirable and great traits because you want them to be likable, also give them undesirable traits. Also give them flaws. Us ourselves as people, we are flawed. So the characters should be too. I mean, nobody likes a perfect character. You can't really do much with them. If a character is perfect from the beginning to the middle to the end and not really much is happening there, then it's a flat character. There's no development. Versus a character who kind of starts off here a little bit wobbly and then they kind of come back up. Now that is a more compelling type of character. Make sure you give your characters flaws. That's what makes them seem more human to begin with. And these don't have to be things like fatal flaws or things that are really terrible, like being evil. You can also turn their strengths into flaws. Maybe this person is really honest, but they're honest to a fault, so they come across as blunt or even brutal and mean. Maybe this person is very dependable, but then they kind of create some kind of like arrogant hero complex because everybody depends on them, and then they become like a sort of bad guy. Giving them interesting things like that. Another point is giving your characters some fears, and these don't have to be very extreme fears like, oh, the world is ending, the apocalypse is coming. These can be like very little human fears, like maybe your character is afraid of spiders, maybe they're afraid of heights. Little things like that can actually become really big plot points later on in certain scenes. Next is giving them interest and hobbies. Okay, you don't want your character to just be like this brick wall that shows up whenever the plot needs them. Give them something to do when they're off screen, something that they like, something that makes them feel like an actual person. This could be like drawing, cooking, racing, skating, things that just are relatable to the readers themselves, especially if they happen to like the same stuff. And don't just give them interests and hobbies, but actually give them a why. There is a reason that you like to do the stuff that you do. So why not give your characters a reason to like the things that they do? But for example, maybe your character is really into baking. They love to bake. Now, why do they like to bake? Oh, their mother was a famous cook and she was really great at cooking. The character, however, is not that great of cooking, but she wants to get really close to her mother in some way, shape, or form, so she takes up baking instead, and she's really good at it. Something like that. My next point is the background. Now, this kind of like goes hand in hand with the purpose. What is the character's relationship with their families and their friends? And this is very important because understanding how they treat and see the people around them that they've grown up with can help you understand how they're going to treat and see the other people who are part of their team, who are the other protagonists, who are the other side characters. Point number two under this is education. What kind of education did your characters get? Did they kind of grow up in an area where they didn't get much of it, so they had to depend on street smarts rather than book smarts? Or were they more like a high class, wealthy family where they were tutored every single day, so they're very knowledgeable in geography, math, science, arts, and they become like an academic weapon, and that helps the team a lot when it comes to knowing other facts. What emotions do the characters mostly carry? You sometimes people will have like there's an angry character who lashes out and their temperament is not very well. Maybe they have like a very sad and emotional character. Maybe they have a character who's all sunshine and rainbows. What emotion do they feel the most and why? And this is part of their background. What was their upbringing like? Did they come from like a very stable home where they were on the streets and now they're very careful and cautious around everybody? Understand like what are they feeling most of the time. And you don't really have to do this, but if you kind of have a character who's on a spectrum of extremes, then I would focus on this a lot. Where do they grow up? So location, and I did mention this in my world building video, where your characters grew up can affect the way that they act a lot. It can affect their personality. Do they like where they're living? Do they have a job? Do they like that? And what are the characters' beliefs? Do they have legends and tales and religion that they grew up with? Do they believe in it? Is that what guides their morality system, their ethics, like their values? Or do they just have no values whatsoever because they didn't grow up with any of this stuff? Now, my second favorite thing to do when creating a character is coming up with an appearance. And I will say that personality can affect appearance a lot more than you think. The way a character acts can be shown on the outside. If your character is very rebellious and they break the rules, then they might have like a lot of faded scars and band-aids from jumping over fences and getting hurt. So little things like that, little details can really make up a bigger part of your character than you think. Here's where you can think about their hair type, their hair color, eyes. What kind of eyes shape do they have, even their eye color? Even their smile. Do they have like a very confident, bright, flashy smile, a little more awkward, tilted smile, a smirk even? How do they dress up? Okay, their appearance, like how they dress physically, is also very important too. Not just for adding details to the story, but dressing up can tell a story. Sometimes people dress up to prove something to themselves or prove something to other people, the way that they're seen physically. Maybe they're influenced by the world that they grew up in. They're influenced by friends and family. Maybe they want to be seen as somebody who is high class and high society, so they'll dress a certain way to be accepted by other people. Maybe they want to be seen as a warrior, so they'll dress up in armor and leather and make themselves look stronger so they can be accepted into whatever kind of military soldier based camp that they want to go into. And also, of course, cultural background can play a really big part in appearance. So maybe your character has more ethnic features. Maybe the way they dress is because of how the people around them in their culture dress. One thing I do for this is that I also like to take inspiration from other people that I see outside. So if you don't like going outside, go outside. It's really easy for me on campus when I'm walking around and I see people wearing certain outfits. And even as I'm looking at the outfit, because I know my characters so well and who they are, I can see certain types of combinations of clothes and I can think, oh, so and so would wear this, so and so would wear that. And I will take my notes app and write down what I saw and then kind of channel it or change it into what my character would wear and just kind of add it into my list of things my characters would have. Have little headcanons for your characters too. It's cute. And remember, appearances can be very symbolic as well. So you can have like a certain type of eye color or hair color depending on what your character's purpose or role is going to be. A good example is Rapunzel. Biologically, she has brown, dark hair like her parents. But because of the magic of the sun and the flower, she has blonde hair, which symbolizes her healing and her joy because she's like a literal ray of sunshine. And my last point is going to be character speech, which I did talk about in improving your writing style in that video. I talked about having a distinct character style of speaking. You should be able to tell who is talking in your story. Your characters should not sound the same. They shouldn't. So understanding your character's way of speech. Maybe this character uses a lot of slang because of the neighborhood they grew up in. Maybe this character is a scholar, so they speak more polished and they're speaking slower and more controlled. Maybe your character's on the verge of crashing out all the time, so they kind of like gritting their teeth a lot. But understanding how your character will speak. And this is also based off of education, their background, Again, everything kind of ties into each other. Another thing I really like to do is to also add accents because it makes a character stand out a little more. It also, whenever you're reading or you're writing, you can kind of hear the character, and if they have an accent, you can hear what they're saying in that character. But that's only if you add that they have an accent. So after answering all of these questions about your character, you'll find that you'll understand them a whole lot more now than you did at the beginning. In fact, over time as you're writing, it'll become way more natural for you to kind of write in their voice and their unique characterizations. It'll just become like second nature. You kind of hit like a flow state, and I love it. But anyways, if you have any questions or comments or things that I might have missed, put them down below in the comments and I will get to you. And I really hope this helped you. Like, I really do hope. But thank you for watching my video, and I will see you in the next one.